أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير. Continuing Surah Al-Mulk, from ayah number 6. The previous ayat, Allah Azza wa Jal spoke about, previous ayat speak about the test of doing better actions and connected with knowing Allah Azza wa Jal, who created the skies and wants us to ponder upon those things that Allah Azza wa Jal has created, and that Allah Azza wa Jal had beautified adorned the Sama'ud Dunya, the sky of the Dunya, with lights. And Allah Azza wa Jal says that we have made of them projectiles to pelt the shaitan. Moreover, we have prepared the shaitan in the hereafter the torment of hell. So this is ayah number 5, and then we move on to ayah number 6. So when Allah Azza wa Jal is speaking about what we have prepared for the shaitan, is after this ayah that Allah Azza wa Jal says, indeed, for all those who have disbelieved in their Lord is the torment of hell, and a most woeful destination it is. But the ayat previously before this, it's quite amazing if you see that Allah Azza wa Jal was just speaking about the creativity of Rahman, and then it's right after these ayat that Allah Azza wa Jal brings the ayat related to punishment. And this is what many other ulama point to, and mufassirin as well, and you'll see in other places in the Quran as well, punishment attached to Allah's name Ar-Rahman. So then what does that mean? Because Allah's name Ar-Rahman, don't we understand it as merciful? So that's why we must understand Ar-Rahman, that it's not just merciful the way we translate it. Rather, and if you look in the books of Allah's names and those that are detailed written by the ulama, you'll see that Ar-Rahman, the name is quite detailed by the ulama. They've gathered more and more to help us understand what it means. And you'll see that they mention Ar-Rahman as a umbrella characteristic of Allah Azza wa Jal, meaning that many other names are connected with this name. As this name, as some of the ulama mention, is what manifests when you see Allah Azza wa Jal's creation and creativity. Some of that creation is like the first or the second ayah mentions, maut as well. What is the mercy of maut? Right. There is mercy in maut as well, even in death. Right? Something that human beings have always indefinitely been afraid of, and the fear of death is something no one grows out of, nor any civilization, as powerful or as academic or intellectual as they become. People still fear death. But for that reason, when you learn Deen comprehensively and understand the name Ar-Rahman comprehensively, you understand that maut also has many positive things. That the person who is yearning to see Allah Azza wa Jal is happy now that they get to meet Allah Azza wa Jal, that they get to come forward to Allah Azza wa Jal. And there are hadith, and you know, ahadith that point to this. Mm. When a person is happy to meet Allah Azza wa Jal, right? So maut, and some of the ulama even mentioned, right, that the death is the gift of the believer. How did they understand that? Right? That some of the creation, right, even that from Allah Azza wa Jal's creation, which would generally have a default, a negative connotation, right? Even that creation, you can find mercy in it. There is always some sort of mercy in it. So when punishment is attached to the name Ar-Rahman, it's also because of the fact that there is some mercy even in the punishment. There is even some mercy in the creation of that punishment. Very small example being that it is through that justice and balance that is established of having a punishment in face of reward, that there is justice. And through justice, only through justice can there be mercy. If there's no justice, there can never be mercy. Right? It is through this balancing of mercy and, call it punishment, or call it uh, you know these qualities of harshness, if you'd like to understand it that way, that there is balance in the Sharia, that you have halal and you have haram. Right? This gives guidance for people to be just, ethical, moral in their ways. If there wasn't punishment, there wouldn't be haram. If there was no haram, then there would be an incomplete deen, an incomplete way. Understand the mercy of haram as well. That when something is haram, there's a mercy in it being haram. There's something good for people, good for us, in knowing that it's haram. Right? So in the quality which we would generally place in opposition of mercy, even in those qualities, when you place it under the name Ar-Rahman, you'll see the mercy of it. So likewise, uh, even in the punishments in this dunya, the types of difficult times that may come up over a person in this dunya, right? There are mercies. We know this as people of Iman. Allah Azza wa Jal sent many difficulties and tests over the Anbiya alayhim salatu wasalam, over the righteous. They are mercies. Even when sinful people are tested with difficulties and with tests and tribulations, it's a mercy, because it's a chance, right, that Allah Azza wa Jal is calling them towards Him, that perhaps through that difficulty they will remember Him. As some of the ulama mentioned, it is from the mercy of Allah with the servant that Allah Azza wa Jal will yuqilahu bima yakrah. He will wake that servant up with that which they dislike. People need to face difficulties at times so that they can be given the chance to come back to reality and to remember Allah Azza wa Jal. And most of the time, the Quran points to it as well, and many other things point to it as well, that in difficult times, people will remember Allah Azza wa Jal. The Sahaba Radwan is actually a statement that goes back to them, that when in difficult times, we had patience and we remembered Allah. But when good times came over us, we forgot Allah. So the mercy of the difficult times is that they're a reminder to pull a person back to Allah Azza wa Jal. There are other statements of the ulama as well, that Allah Azza wa Jal will drag a person to His gates, drag a person to His gates with salasilul imtihan, with the chains of testing a person. So just before this ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal had said, don't you see the creation of the Rahman? And then وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ and وَجَعَلْنَاهَا رُجُومًا وَأَعْتَدْنَا لَهُمْ عَذَابَ السَّعِيرِ وَلِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. This waw is connecting this with all of that. That for the people of disbelief, right, those who disbelieve in their Lord, there's the punishment of Jahannam. So this is intended to be even as it is a punishment. Right? If you understand it in this way, right, then you won't get too overwhelmed, even though being a little bit overwhelmed by the fear is a good thing as well. We shouldn't always run away. Right? Many times people say, why are you speaking too much about Jahannam? Why are you mentioning death too much? We should never be overwhelmed. Rather, Rasulullah ﷺ, he, uh, he encouraged the opposite of this, to speak abundantly about these things. But if you understand it from this lens as well, then you won't be too overwhelmed. As you know, when we say fear of Allah Azza wa Jal, one type of that fear is not just fear of punishment, but it's a merciful fear. A merciful fear. What is it? When you love something, you fear losing it. This is a merciful fear. So if you love Allah Azza wa Jal, you fear being distanced from Him. You fear that Allah Azza wa Jal will not allow you to see Him. You fear that Allah Azza wa Jal will not guide you to Him. Right? That's a different type of fear. It's a merciful type of fear. So Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَلِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ عَذَابُ جَهَنَّمْ وَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ. Indeed, for all those who have disbelieved in their Lord, awaiting them is the torment of hell. Even in this ayah, you see Allah Azza wa Jal is saying, those who disbelieved in their Lord. Allah Azza wa Jal connects His rububiyyah, His lordship, to the disbelievers. Right? Allah Azza wa Jal is saying, the people of disbelief should remember me as their Lord. It's their fault they're not remembering me as their Lord. And because of that great fault, a woeful destination has been prepared for them. What is the description of such a punishment? إِذَا أُلْقُوا فِيهَا سَمِعُوا لَهَا شَهِيقًا وَهِيَ تَفُورُ. That when they are cast into it, they will hear therein its deep gasping as it boils over. Shahiq is a screeching noise, gasping noise. Right? And tafur is when this water is boiling over and becoming aggressive, or this fire, right? This fire is becoming aggressive. Allah Azza wa Jal gives it a quality of aliveness. In the next ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal says, تَكَادُ تَمَيَّزُ مِنَ الْغَيْظِ. That it nearly bursts with rage. Ghayz is anger and rage, which is generally attached to human beings, living things. The characteristic of Jahannam has been described as very living in other ayat that Jahannam will speak, for example, and over here as well. That it's about nearly to burst from rage. كُلَّمَا أُلْقِيَ فِيهَا فَوْجٌ. Whenever a group is thrown therein, سَأَلَهُمْ خَزَنَتُهَا أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ نَذِيرٌ. Whenever a group is casted into it, the keepers of Jahannam, خَزَنَتُهَا, who are also very grand, the malaika of Jahannam are very great in size. Their appearance is very terrifying. These guards of Jahannam will say, did there not come to you a forewarner? أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ نَذِيرٌ. This is the importance of paying attention to the warning. This is why when Rasulullah ﷺ opened his da'wah, right, we know in Makkah Mukarramah, the beginning period for some time was a period within which da'wah was done privately and secretly, until Rasulullah ﷺ was commanded, قُمْ فَأَنذِرْ, that now publicly warn the people. And so Rasulullah ﷺ ascended upon the mountain and he called the people, and he said to them, Inni ana nadhirul uryan, that I am the warner. And so he warned them. And in the warning is mercy. Right? If someone, right, Rasulullah ﷺ said that my example to you guys are like the example of these insects that see a fire and are trying to jump into it. And I'm trying to save those insects. I'm trying to save those things from jumping into the fire. Right? When the Anbiya alayhi knew that there's punishment coming, knew that there's disaster coming, it was out of their mercy for the creation to protect everyone that they went to people. They went above and beyond, faced pains, and warned the people. Right? A warner is not a bad thing. A warning is not a bad thing. A warning is a good thing. Who would you blame if you're in a city and a natural disaster comes to your way and there's no warning? That's not a good thing. Allah Azza wa Jal sent warners, Anbiya alayhim salatu wasalam. This is a mercy from Allah Azza wa Jal, and it's a mercy of the prophets that they came and they warned. This warning is a mercy. قَالُوا بَلَى قَدْ جَاءَنَا نَذِيرٌ. They will respond and they will say, Bala, that of course, yes, indeed. Indeed, a warner came to us. Bala qad ja'ana nadir. A forewarner surely came to us. فَكَذَّبْنَا. But we belied faith. وَقُلْنَا مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. And we said that Allah did not send down anything to us. Or Allah did not send anything down. مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. And so then it will be said to them that they said to the Anbiya, this was their general approach, that it is you who have but fallen into great error. In antum illa fi dalalin kabir. وَقَالُوا. Moreover, they shall say, لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ. If only we had listened. This is now the guilt, the remorse. لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ. Guilt is such a quality. Right? Guilt is such a quality, right, that it comes when a person falls short in something and they come to recognition that the shortcoming is because of myself. If a person assigns that shortcoming to something else, then perhaps they'll be more frustrated. If I had a goal, I wanted to do something, someone or something came in the way, which caused me to not have that goal, people get angry, frustrated. But it's only when a person comes to realization that the goal that left my hands, that I had, that I was unable to attain, was because of myself, that a person now then regrets. Right? So they fall into the category of regret and guilt and shame. And so they will say, لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ. This is their remorse. لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ. Only if we had listened. أَوْ نَعْقِلْ. Not just listened, but also understood. Understood, or had used our reason. Understood. Right? The wahi that Allah Azza wa Jal sends, it must be heard and it must be understood as well. But why are they saying only if we had heard or understood? The reason being, if you don't understand but you hear it, at least even if you heard it, just follow, you'll be saved. Just follow, you'll be saved. People will understand the wahi on different degrees. Not everyone will understand the wahi to the same degree. There will be those who will understand it more. There will be those who understand it very much. There will be those who understand it a bit less. And there will be those who understand it very much less. But even to the small degree that a person may understand it, if they've heard it, then they must listen to it and obey it. If they do that, then even if the door of reasoning and understanding it to a great degree is not open to them, if Allah Azza wa Jal does not give them that ilm, that knowledge, then still at least they will be protected because the fact that they obeyed, because they listened. This is why, for example, in seeking knowledge, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave different degrees, and he said, become a learned person. If you cannot become a learned person, then become a student. If you cannot be a student, then at least be a listener, someone who mustami'an, who pays attention. And if you cannot do that as well, then at least love, mean have a positive attachment to the learning of deen, to the understanding of deen. And do not be anything beyond this. Like a person rejects learning deen, or a person rejects the people who learn deen, or has no love for this process of learning deen. Then if you will be this type of person, fatahlak, you will destroy yourself. So you want to be at least someone who listens and understands some. Oh, naqil, only if we understood. Ma kunna, had we done this, ma kunna fi ashab as-sa'ir. Had we done this, we would have not been among the companions of the fire. Ma kunna fi ashab as-sa'ir. We wouldn't have been among the companions of the fire. Meaning, this is just the state that is being mentioned of some of the people of the fire. People will remorse in the fire in different degrees, in different ways. Just like people in Jannah will enjoy and praise Allah to different degrees and different ways. Rasulullah ﷺ being given the greatest rank in Jannah, the greatest form of praise. But the people of Jahannam also will have degrees. And so, which is why they're saying we wouldn't have been from among the companions of the fire. فَاعْتَرَفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says that they will thus acknowledge their sin. Now acknowledgement is coming. Which is why this is a mercy from Allah Azza wa Jalla. Allah Azza wa Jalla has granted us Islam. Allah Azza wa Jalla granted us Iman and gave us the opportunity that as long as before we take our last breath, that we make tawbah, return to Allah Azza wa Jal, so that we acknowledge sin now, so that we're not guilty, remorseful, acknowledging it in the hereafter when it's too late. They will acknowledge it at this point. فَاعْتَرَفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ. They will acknowledge their sin at this point. فَسُحْقًا لِأَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. So Allah Azza wa Jal says that so damned are the companions of the flaming fire. Suhqan is like a word which is mentioned, when something is, you say far with it, and destroyed, wretched. This is when the word suhqan is said. The same word comes in hadith, is mentioned to the people who will go on to line up to the hawd to receive water from the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and the angels will say to them suhqan or bu'dan, that away with you, and they will take them away. And Rasulullah ﷺ will ask, why are you taking them away? And they will say that, O Rasulullah ﷺ, you do not know what they did after you. So this is a word used over here as well. The ashab as-sa'ir, for the people of the fire. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَيْبِ. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَيْبِ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ كَبِيرٌ. That as for those who fear their Lord, يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَيْبِ, they will have forgiveness and a great reward. For them is forgiveness and a great reward. Something very important to mention, understand here, is that Allah Azza wa Jalla is not mentioning a physical amal here. Although, of course, as Muslims, you have to, be holistic. You have to fulfill everything Allah Azza wa Jalla has obliged over you. But over here, Allah Azza wa Jalla is mentioning the importance of the amalul qalb, of the action of the heart, which is khashya, right? Bringing the presence of Allah Azza wa Jal, which is a matter of the unseen, bil ghayb. Allah Azza wa Jal is unseen to us, and everything that He's told us about from the unseen, those matters. That a person brings that present into their heart, and that presence brings an awe, it brings a reverence, and that reverence leads to, which is why it's being translated here as fear. But khashya, its primary meaning is not fear, rather fear is the result of khashya. Fear is the result of khashya. That when a person brings the presence of something which is very superior, which is very dominant, very strong into their heart, right? Which is why Allah Azza wa Jalla says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. That only the people who know. Right? One of the great scholars translates this as people who know, not necessarily ulama as in scholars the way that we would understand it. Rather, people who know, who have that knowledge that Allah Azza wa Jalla gives to them. Only those people will have this khashya of Allah Azza wa Jalla, this, that they have this presence of Allah Azza wa Jalla in their heart. When they have this presence in their heart, they have this amal, this action of the heart. Right? The heart also has actions. The heart also has obligations. The heart also has things that it must stay away from. The heart also has things which are sinful for the heart. Right? We assume generally that all thoughts, and yes, it is correct that thoughts, right, thoughts, when people dispel them, a person is not going to be taken account for them. But certain things which go a little bit beyond then the dimension of thoughts, rather they become repetitive actions. For example, jealousy. One is when a person gets the thought of jealousy. But one is when a person harbors jealousy. They're practicing it in their heart. It's building, it's developing. Or bughd, hatred for people. Right? This is an action when a person brings it in their heart and they repetitively practice it and they're not pushing it away. Right? Then the ulama mentioned in that context that that's a sin for the heart. And it blackens the heart. It does affect the heart. It's not like the other thoughts that a person may get and they will shoo away. But when a person is harboring these diseases in their heart, then they affect. And on the other hand, then the other a'malul qalb, the other actions of the heart which are good, for example, the khashya that is being mentioned here, that a person bring this presence of Allah Azza wa Jal in their heart, by which their heart is humble to Allah Azza wa Jal. This brings humility then to the person, to their mind, their thinking, their speech, everything, their actions. Such a person then, their salah is different, their ibadat are different. Right? This is why everything goes back. Right? The ulama mentioned that the madar, everything goes back to the heart. Everything goes back to the heart. The intentions go back to the heart. All actions go back to the intentions. Right? So everything goes back to the heart. لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ كَبِيرٌ. For this action of the heart that they have, for this iman that they have, which is in the heart, for this presence of the unseen that they had, لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ, they will have great forgiveness. وَأَجْرٌ كَبِيرٌ, and a great, great reward. وَأَسِرُّوا قَوْلَكُمْ أَوْ اجْهَرُوا بِهِ إِنَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصُّدُورِ. We'll end with these last two ayat. وَأَسِرُّوا قَوْلَكُمْ أَوْ اجْهَرُوا بِهِ إِنَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصُّدُورِ. Whether you keep your words secret or utter them aloud. أَسِرُّوا قَوْلَكُمْ أَوْ اجْهَرُوا بِهِ إِنَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصُّدُورِ. He is all-knowing of all that is harbored within the breast of people, within the sudur, within the chest of the people. Allah Azza wa Jal knows everything, and this is what is great of the knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jal. One of the great aspects of Allah Azza wa Jal's knowledge, which is that it is not just the external actions, right? It is not just the statements of a person, right? Qawl being mentioned here. But then there's the aspect of sir being mentioned, secret. That even the inner speech, which no one else can hear, right? The internal speech that no one else can hear, the secrets of a person's thoughts. Allah Azza wa Jal sees and knows all of those things. Allah Azza wa Jal knows what everyone is thinking at that moment, right? Without any difficulty or any hindrance. Which is why in a hadith it comes that if all of the ins and jinn were to gather together and they were to ask me, and the asking doesn't necessarily need to be a verbal asking, but they have a thought of asking in their heart, Allah would know what everyone's thought is, everyone's dua is in their heart, and He would grant them exactly what they were thinking about. Allah Azza wa Jal knows everything. إِنَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصُّدُورِ. But this particular description of Allah Azza wa Jal knowing with, right, why is Allah Azza wa Jal بِذَاتِ الصُّدُورِ, with that which the chests are carrying, their, as the translation mentions, they're harboring. This is again because the ayah before is mentioning the heart. So Allah Azza wa Jal knows what is in the heart. What's mentioned, what's referred to by the sadr, by the chest, is also the heart. This is another name given to the heart, actually. And it's to point to this contextual meaning that although this heart is protected, it's inside this chest, which you'd assume, it's gated, it's guarded, nothing can get into it. Allah Azza wa Jal knows everything that's going on in this heart. Allah Azza wa Jal can see everything that's present within it. It is these hearts which are gated by these chests, which will be open on the day of resurrection, and they will speak on the day of resurrection. And the heart will inform Allah Azza wa Jal of everything. Right? So, إِنَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصُّدُورِ. Allah Azza wa Jal is all knowing of that which is carried within the chest of the people. أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. Does He who has created not know? The structure of this ayah is very interesting. أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ. That does He not know? Who is He who does not know? Or is being questioned to not know? It's man khalaq, the being who created. Right? If He created you, would He not know these things? وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. And this is why then the word, the name of Allah Azza wa Jalla, Latif, is attached to this ayah. Lutf or altaf are those subtle things. Those very, very subtle, very thin. This is that lutf are those subtle, thin, minor detail type of things. You'll generally call them altaf. Right? The ulama gave, for example, a title, a term to the heart and its actions and things related to it as altaf or lata'if as well. Right? The plural of this, those subtle realities, right? Because the heart is a subtle thing. Right? You can't see jealousy, you can't see love of Allah Azza wa Jal, you can't see all these are subtle realities. So likewise, Allah Azza wa Jal, all of these subtle things come from Allah Azza wa Jal, whose name is Al-Latif. He is the subtle. Al-Khabir, the all-aware. Al-Khabir is who knows also all things. Alim being a little bit different from it, and Al-Khabir being a little bit as well different from that. And perhaps we'll go over this ayah again, inshallah, in the coming week to understand these names a bit better. May Allah Azza wa Jal grant us understanding of these ayat, the ability to practice them and bring them in our lives. And may He forgive us for any shortcomings in our attempt to understand His perfect word. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. صدق الله العظيم. سبحان الله بحمده سبحانك وبحمدك.